It's Matt Wyatt with all the good stuff you need to know.
Right here on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide
At the Zone1059.com.
Well, what do you know? What is this? What is this right here? What are we doing? Is this what I think it is? Is this a live radio show in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio? Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. Yes, indeedy dandy do. Back in the saddle again.
Back in the saddle again. Out where a friend is a friend.
Sing along, everybody. Back
where
in the
the
saddle.
longhorn cattle feed on the lowly gypsum.
I got stories to tell
back in
you.
the saddle again.
Yeah.
Riding the range once more.
That's what it's felt like for about 10 days.
My old 44.
Riding the range once more. I'm glad to be back with you.
Saddle again.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Whoopie-tie-I-O, rocking to and fro, back in.
So vacation last week. Thanks for letting me take a few days with the family. That was awesome. We went down there, put our feet in the sand and that whole thing, and got back. And then I'll tell you, I put out a post yesterday that said, we had a medical issue, and people thought that I was dying. It was not me. Annabeth. Sunday, we got back from vacation on Saturday, and then overnight, Saturday night into Sunday morning, she got really, really sick and in tremendous pain. She was down on the floor. She couldn't get up. We wound up in the emergency room in the wee hours of Sunday morning with a kidney stone that was just doing a number on her. So ER and then surgery to get it removed yesterday. And so that's kind of where we've all been, and that was the details on that, and glad to be back. And yeah, Beaver told me, he said, after you put that post out, said, hey, unfortunately, can't be on the air today. We got a medical issue. We'll be back tomorrow. And he said, I noticed that people thought you were dying. So I didn't word it very well, and that's my fault. Speaking of Beaver, hey, Beaver, how you doing?
I am all right, Matt Wyatt.
I'm so glad to be on the air with you and hearing your voice. Your silence tells me that you think I'm being sarcastic.
That's typically my first thought.
Yeah, no, it's just good to be back. I like taking some time off. It's necessary. But at the same time, too, I get itchy to get back into the normal routine, which is being on the air here with you on the show. So glad to be back. Did you have a good week last week?
Yeah, it was a good one.
Okay. A little downtime in the middle of the day as opposed to normal. Enjoyed that, I assume?
I did. I liked that. I got a lot of good reading.
Oh.
Done.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. You got to tell me a little bit about the material that you read last week.
I know that's what you've been waiting for.
I've been waiting for 5, 6, 7 days to hear this.
So I got a book. I came across it random like. I don't know why. It's Facebook. Facebook loves popping up just random ads they target you with.
Right.
Oh, and they sucked me in a couple weeks ago. I was up here, actually, and looking at the Facebook, and there's this ad for a book about Adam Duritz of the Counting Crows.
What was the title? What's the title of that book?
Rain King.
See, I hit the button too soon. Did you say Rain King?
I did.
What does that have to do with anything?
That's a Dynamite song from their first album.
Oh. Dynamite as in you'd like to strap dynamite to it and blow it up? Is that what you mean? Is that what we're talking about? Okay, but all joking aside, Adam Duritz, lead singer of Counting Crows, who I've made fun of them. I said he couldn't sing. I likened it to if Bobcat Goldthwait, however you say it, was your lead singer. But was it interesting reading? Was it a good read, Beaver?
Well, I mean, do you want me to tell you now, or do you just want to wait till Christmas when I get you a copy of your own?
Well, here's what I would say: is feel free to wait. Feel free to wait until Christmas. Yeah, because I mean, if you are going to get me a copy, I want it to be a surprise. So good to be back. Glad you got some reading done, Beaver. Beaver's here. I'm here. Most importantly, you are here. Appreciate you listening and being part of the show. We got the live stream up and going. That is back in full force. Some comments on Facebook. Ginger says, hey. What up, Ginger? Danny is in Ringgold, Georgia, listening in on Facebook. He said, great to have you back. Greetings in Hail State from Ringgold, Georgia. Nathan said, get well soon, homecoming queen. Yeah, I really do appreciate that. She's on the mend. She's a tough one. She's tough, but that really did a number on her. Glad to be back. And first two texts out of the chute this week on the Country Pleasing text line, Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. Number to text the show, 885-3776. So the text line is 885-3776. Another way to remember it is 885-ESPN. Just text that number. I'll get it right here. Denzel texting the show. What up, Denzel? He says, out now in Walmart. Been putting them out for 2 weeks. You know what it is? You know what it is? Big old bags of candy corn. It is. And look, somebody put the joke on Facebook yesterday, and it said, hey, look, it's July. It's 105 degrees outside. That means any day now, Walmart's going to put out the Christmas stuff. They'll have the Christmas section out in a day or two. I'm sure it's already out at Cracker Barrel. J-Rock texts the show, says, hey, Matt, I feel for Annabeth. I had a stone for the first time in my life. I did not know what was happening. I literally thought I was dying. I'm glad that she's better. Well, thank you so much, J-Rock. And listen, you're talking about tough, so you know how rough it is. Annabeth, this was her 21st kidney stone in her life, and the worst one. So, I mean, what else can you say? It's terrible. Tommy, what's up? He says, well, look who it is, everybody. It's Matt Wyatt. Yeah, glad to be here and feet on the ground here on Mississippi soil. Brandon texts the show. And what does he say here? He says, I'm the last person to start anything, but Beaver has been throwing you under the bus about you being gone. Just wanted you to know. Well, here's the thing about that. I would say rightfully so. Okay, I would just say rightfully so. And it's not over. We still have, even before the month is up, we still have some travel stuff that we've got to do. And it's, like I told you at the beginning of the month, this is going to be one of these up and down deals. I'll be here, I'll be gone, I'll be here, I'll be gone. And then slowly ramping up to August, getting here. When we get back in August, school starts, football practice starts, and then it's just smooth sailing, normal schedule. I mean, normal as much as it can be. Daily schedule leading up to the start of football season and then through football season. But so, look, if he's been giving me a hard time behind my back, then what am I supposed to say? I mean, like, what?
Well, let me tell you the actual truth.
Okay.
Because let's break down that text. Let's consider who the text is from. First of all, that's okay. Brando.
All right, Brando, yeah.
First part, I'm the last person to start anything. No, he is among the first.
Okay, so he prefaced this with a lie, basically, is what happened.
Yeah, he is among the first. He's not the first, the first person on the text line that'll just start things. So that's a falsehood to begin with. Beav has been throwing you under the bus about you being gone now. Many times in the past, when you would take off, of course I did. All right? The same way I would talk about Chris Brooks taking off so much back in the day. But no time in the last week has that actually happened because you've been on vacation. It's a summer vacation. It's a family vacation. You can't attack that. So
yeah.
Every bit of that is false from Brando.
Okay. Well, Brando then texts, and he's like, oh, I did this on purpose. He says, I knew that would rev up his motor. Love y'all.
See
what I mean? Now, think about a person, Beaver, who instigates something like that, where he actually sees an opening from other people. Like it didn't even involve him. It's just other people realizes, okay, Matt was out, and I'm going to say that Beaver said something behind his back, and I'm going to instigate this whole situation.
Yeah. You know what those kind of people are? They're problems. And Brando is a big one.
Brando is the kind of guy who, like, in high school was probably never in trouble, okay, but was always observing everybody else and laughing at them because he was involved in starting something. That's, we've all got those. We've all got those. Brando, thanks for the text. All right. Also, you can be a part of the show by calling, and I hope you'll let me hear your voice. People get tired of just hearing my voice. All right. I even get tired of it. I'm already tired of it, and we're 10 minutes into today's show. But you can call me, and I get to hear your voice, and everybody else can too. So call me on the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson is your Kubota dealer. Kubota dealer. They're the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact, which means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Davini. So call me on the Davini phone. The number, 995-1059. Got it? If you're looking at the live stream, it's on the bottom scrolling across, 995-1059. Call that number. We'll talk. Text me on the country, please, and text line. We'll get into that. Brandon says that we were spitting facts about high school. That was him. He was never in trouble. He was just laughing at everybody else all the time, usually behind whatever shenanigans were going on. We have figured you out. All right, let me read this one to you because I do think it is appropriately something that we can sort of begin our conversation with today, and that is a text from QB1 having to do with uniforms. QB1 says, did you hear that Mississippi State got new football uniforms? He says, I'm not sure if you heard that yet or saw them, but apparently they did. I don't know for sure, though. Can you confirm or deny? Hashtag sarcasm. Yeah, I saw it. All right, and let's sort of frame this up for you. And they put this out last night. You know, the timing of it is absolutely on purpose. Because today, here Tuesday, is day 2 of SEC Media Days in Nashville. And you got State's coach and players. So you got Zach Arnett. You've got 3 Mississippi State players, 2 on offense, 1 on defense. So you got Will Rogers, Woody Marks, and you got Jaden Crumity, defensive lineman. They're there today in their suits and ties, walking around doing interviews and all that. And they may be on TV here in a little bit. If they are, I'll check in. We'll just kind of do a little live look in on the TV broadcast and see what we come up with. If they talk to them. Now, they are scheduled, State's players and Zach Arnett are scheduled to be at podiums and doing interviews later this afternoon. Like, I think today it started with Georgia and then Auburn and then State or maybe it started with Vandy. I don't know. I think Vandy maybe went first this morning. So 4 teams. And then, Zach Arnett. So, like, Coach Arnett's going to start doing TV interview stuff at around 2 o'clock or so Central Time, around 3 o'clock or so Eastern. And it's all according to when they get there and that kind of thing. They're already doing some of that stuff now. And so we'll check in. If they pop them up on TV, we'll take a look at it. But all of that stuff, because of television, is available to us either live or on demand. So we'll check into that. But again, the reason I'm mentioning that today, day 2 SEC Media Day. So last night, less than 24 hours ahead of Zach Arnett and State's players making their way through the media rounds, State decided to go ahead and release the images of the football uniforms. They're going to have a little bit of a tweak that they're going to wear this year. And I saw them. And so for those that haven't seen it, the tweak to the uniforms is, the new State script on the side of the helmet. And I really like it. They wore it last year once, twice, a couple times. I don't know. Once, twice, 3 times a lady. Shout out, Lionel Richie. But anyhow, they wore it a couple times last year. Really liked it. And I think I have not researched the exact origins of that particular logo. I think it goes back to baseball initially. I think that's right. I do know that in terms of like if you were to go back 4, 5, 6 years ago, the only place you could find that big state script with the underscore prominently displayed somewhere was at Duty Noble, like in the clubhouse and in the locker room and stuff, in some of the recruiting areas. Well, then it obviously made its way to other things. And as soon as that's a particular logo and insignia that as soon as it sort of made its way out into the public a little more, it kind of grew very popular. And then you had some retailers that once they found out that there was going to be an alternate helmet last year with that on there, then there began to be, and this is how it works, from the university and from their copyright and trademarks, I guess trademarks would be the word, they began to put a few items out in stores with that particular logo on it. And the stuff just sold like crazy. Anywhere that was carrying stuff with that state script, whether it's a hat or a shirt or a golf bag or, a putter cover or whatever it is at the golf course, that stuff was just selling up. You knew people liked it. Great response to it last year. And so that's what they're going to wear this year on the side of the helmet in place of the M-State banner logo, but y'all know what that is. Now, I will say that there are probably some people listening who last night when it came out, put out a quick commentary video on Facebook and Twitter, just as I saw it, some thoughts, initial reaction. You probably have already seen that, so some of this may be a little bit of a repeat for you if you watched it, but my opinion is I like it very much. I like a change. I have felt like for years, like a lot of people have, that there needed to be some sort of change. From time to time on this show over the last 5 years, we've gotten into the logo discussion as it related to Mississippi State. And, I've been open about it. It's not like it's a game changer either way for me in terms of fandom or whatever, or wearing stuff. I wear it. I don't buy stuff. I a lot of times have it given to me, which I'm really thankful for. But, the M-State banner stuff that was always for 10, 15 years now, prominently on the side of the helmet. Before that, the old block M-State that was just awful that they went to on the side of the helmets and on the water towers and stuff. At the end of the Coach Sherrill deal, when Coach Kroon came in, they went to the white helmet with the old block M-State. It's just a horrible logo, terrible decision there. And they tried to fix it up in 2009 when Mullen came in and Byrne was the AD, and they wanted to sort of uniform across the board, like all the apparel, all the shirts that were out there, make sure it's the same color maroon instead of all these variations, and have the same logo and everything, and make this big transition to a little bit more of a modern logo type thing. But they had several versions, the Bulldog, deal, and the new modern M-State, which you've had on the helmet. And it still is something that you always felt like it was obligatory. You were obligated to put it on the helmet. You were obligated to hang on to it. There was somebody behind the scenes that just believed so much that was the thing, that's the logo, and that's what we've had. But it's not really brandable. For whatever reason, that thing is not really brandable. It doesn't catch on. It never became glue. And there were I think maybe some hard-headed people behind it were like, well, we have invested all this money in branding this thing and redoing it. We got to stick to it and give it a chance. Well, look, you gave it a chance, more than 10 years of a chance for it to stick, and it just never stuck. People don't like it. Again, if they bought a shirt or a hat with that on there, it was more obligatory than anything else. And as soon as the last couple of years you started wearing alternate logos and alternate helmets, as soon as you did it, people loved it because it was something different. The Flying M, the pirate logo, the throwback to the dowsing uniforms with MS just on the side, and of course the state script that they put on there last year, which people really loved. It looked good. Players love it. And so, like I said in the video I did last night, my hat is really off to the decision makers to go ahead and do it, to sort of recognize, hey, we got to do something. Like, this thing has run its course. People don't like it. Any retailer, anywhere that's selling shirts and hats, and gear, without fail over the last year, you could put a sales rack here with M-State banner stuff on it, and a sales rack here next to it with the state script on it, and they'd sell the state script stuff out. And they never sell out the other stuff. So it's just a fresh change. It's really needed. I'm happy that they're doing it. Now, they kept in the jersey change, I didn't pay as close attention to that as I did the helmet. But they kept that like right here, a little one. But the state's going to be on the side of the helmet. And I like it. It is a much more recognizable type of logo. It is a much more brandable logo as in comparison with other logos and other schools that are out there. It has several elements to it in that it's not only visual, but it's also verbal, meaning it's visual state script, but it's verbal state, right? When you look at the other one, what is it? It's sort of visual, but it's convoluted because there's so much there. There's an M, there's a banner, there's a word. So you had these three elements. But like, what would you say verbally about that? We're calling it the banner M or the M banner. We can't even say state because people don't even recognize that's what the word is unless they look really closely. So the elements of design are there with this. They weren't with the other. This is much more brandable. Now, don't get me started on the baseball logo because this is the best thing you have, hands down, by far. But I understand if you want to keep that for just baseball. So thanks for the question. More texts coming your way next from Beer Slayer, Doggone, David in Madison. More of that, and we'll jump over and see what's going on at SEC Media Days. Day 2 of it right now, going on as we speak. I'm just getting started with you here in the Bureau on this Tuesday. I'm Matt in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau Insurance, go with the home team. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transfer fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. 600.
59 and worldwide
At thezone1059.com.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team, Farm Bureau Insurance. I'm here. Beaver's here. Thank goodness you're here. Appreciate you tuning in. Just kind of getting back into the swing of things. Still got a little up and down to do in terms of schedule goes for the remainder of July, but hopefully here with you for the remainder of the week. And then I'll be joining in with you here on the radio next week from Parts Unknown. More on that coming up. And then we get into, in a couple of weeks, the first week of August, we'll have football practice going. School will be getting started back, and everything will kind of get in high gear. And we already are, but certainly you get to the first week of August, you're really close to the beginning of high school football, which I'm really excited about this year. And some stuff on the creative slate to do with high school football this year. So really looking forward to that. All right, over the text line, Country Pleasin' text line. Country Pleasin' sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. Walk in there and say, Country Pleasin', please. 885-3776, the number to text. Beer Slayer texts the show. He says, welcome back, Matt. Glad you had a good vacation. Hope Homecoming Queen feels better. Do you think, and thank you very much. Thank you very much, Beer Slayer. She's on the mend. She's got a little ways to go. It really packed a punch. It is a rough last 48 hours. But she's on the mend. Beer Slayer said, do you think Zach Arnett will take a shot today at TSUN like Thunder Dan did? Well, matter of factly, I don't think he will, just because that has not been his MO so far. I mean, if he does, he does, but I don't think he will. I wonder how you feel about this. I don't think this is chalked up to any particular individual. I just think that the shift and change that's been happening in college sports and in college football in particular is helping to, what's the right word, soften some of the edge in some of these rivalries and stuff. Does that make sense? I think if you went back 10 years ago, maybe, there was an edginess to the rivalry. Certainly you had Dan Mullen taking shots and all that kind of stuff, and he did instigate a lot of that. But, you also had the edginess on the recruiting trail because you were still under NCAA rule, and it was still inducements were against the rules, and you could get caught, and then Ole Miss did get caught, and it's like probation and losing scholarships, and there was all these recruiting battles and stuff. And what's happened, right, is the last couple of years, transfer portal opens up, players coming in and out, players going from one school to the other. It's new starters and new backups each year because of transfer, and our players go and some come in. And so people have kind of let go of the edge for that reason. And then the NIL deal, where recruiting is primarily what these days? It's, hey, either you do uncover some gem out here and you get him for a year or two until he realizes he should have been a 5-star and now he starts demanding money. either himself or an agent, or on the front end. Hey, we need a 4-star pass rusher either out of the portal or in high school. Let's pile up some money and go out here and recruit one. And it's inducements, but that's what it is. They call it NIL. We all recognize that. Anybody with a brain recognizes it as such. And so that has also, I think, softened the edge on the rivalry a little bit. It's like, hey, more power to them. You want to beat them when you play them. Other than that, so what? They do their thing. We do ours. It's a whole different era. I really do believe there's some of that dynamic out there right now. And I think so for that reason. A lot of the overall atmosphere in college football has changed. And you're just not going to have coaches, out here stoking some rivalry and making comments and all that kind of stuff. It's like, that's what I think. We'll see. Doggone says on the Country Pleasing text line, Matt, I would have thought Arnett and the players would have paid tribute to Leach by not wearing a tie. Yeah, maybe, I guess I saw that Greg Sankey mentioned that yesterday. So on that note, doggone, so I mentioned Sankey here. Let me give you this. This is Greg Sankey yesterday, day one of SEC Media Days, and his tribute to Mike Leach.
Last year in Atlanta, one of my backstage conversations was about the uselessness of neckties. It was a conversation that went much longer than I anticipated and ended in the rhetorical question of why neckties survived but powder wigs went away. That conversation was with Mike Leach, and today I'm without a tie just to honor Mike's memory. We lost Mike in December, a person important not simply to the Southeastern Conference. We only had him for a few seasons, but to all of college football. He was fascinating and impacted the lives of thousands of people across the college football spectrum and across his life. He provided wedding advice, evaluated Halloween candy, and if you ended up in a phone call talking about history, you had better have scheduled a great deal of time as he recited his historical knowledge. He also observed the world from a perspective that made you think and often made you laugh and sometimes made you just perplexed. And it's important that we remember people who've contributed, be it for the short term or the long term, to this wonderful conference. And we're going to miss Mike, but he's not going to be forgotten.
So there you go, the comments from Greg Sankey yesterday at the podium about Mike Leach. To your point, doggone, he did it. You'd think Arnett and the players wouldn't wear a tie. I don't know. Who cares? They're football players, and they get all dressed up for this thing once a year. It's great and everything. My deal is, and I honestly believe that Mike Leach would agree with this, is, do your thing. You want to wear a tie? Fine. It's yours. Nobody can say anything to you for wearing a tie. For the same reasons, if I don't want to wear one, I'm not. You don't bother me about not wearing it. I'm not going to bother you about wearing it. But I might question wearing it, why we wear it. And the other thing is, I think he would agree with this. Mike Leach would probably agree with this too. Is don't not wear a tie to honor him. No, don't put the tie on because it makes no sense. It has no purpose. There's no purpose in the tie. It's like these guys sitting up there. Right. It's dressing up. Okay, that's what it is. It's playing dress up. It's for looks. Okay, but it doesn't serve a purpose. Period. End of story. There's no purpose that a necktie serves other than, I don't know, you could say that it adds to the formality of what you're wearing or an event or the look, but otherwise it doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. It's dumb. If somebody goes, "Why are you wearing that?" You can say, "Well, I like the way it looks." But that's the only thing you could say, because you couldn't say, "Well, it's holding my shirt together," or "it does this," or "it does that." It does not have a purpose. Period. End of story. So I think Coach Leach would say the reason not to wear a tie is because it serves no purpose whatsoever, which I've always agreed with that also. What do you think? Will comment on YouTube. We got it streaming back on YouTube again. Will says, "Matt, glad to see you back streaming on YouTube." Gave us a Hail State. Thanks for the comment, Will. Yeah, if y'all want to stream it, watch the show, you can. It's on YouTube, Facebook, streaming live on Twitter. And on Facebook, YouTube, you can comment there, get your questions in or comments or anything like that. Get them on in here. All right, this is interesting too. David in Madison texts the show on the Country Pleasing text line. He says he was listening to Chuck Oliver show, which comes on before this show on The Zone. He said that he interviewed Coach Arnett, and that Coach indicated that Will Rogers will not be under center nearly as much as people think. David said he actually said that he hadn't noticed him under center very much thus far. Your thoughts on that? Well, here's a couple of thoughts for you. I think there's absolutely some truth in that. Okay? Absolutely some truth in that. In that, you know, the idea was, oh, well, he's going to be under center a bunch because it's a new offense. It's going to be more run-based. But no. I mean, go watch the offenses that Kevin Barbay has run at previous stops. Central Michigan, App State, a ton of shotgun, mostly shotgun, and a lot of that pistol formation where you're in the shotgun with the backs behind you, and you're running your run game off of that. You know, maybe a few times where they put him under center. But the other thing is, you know, he's a fourth-year player, a fourth-year starter, who in the previous 3 years has spent his entire career in the shotgun, catching the snap and not having to turn his back to the defense. And why would you come in here as an offensive coordinator thinking you're going to snap your fingers, make him do that for any reason whatsoever, and him not have an adjustment? And why would you want him to adjust? Unless it's just the occasional, power play on a goal line or short yardage or just a change up, 2-3 times a ball game. That's what I think. The other thing is, David, why would Zach Arnett or any coach, from a scheme and formation standpoint, go out here and confirm anything when he could not confirm anything and just make sure that no future opponent, like the first week opponent, is not going to get any sort of clue. Like, don't give any clues when you've had a coaching change. Barbay's coming in to run a new offense. Yeah. Well, if you're, who are they playing first? Southeast Louisiana. If you're a defensive coach at Southeast Louisiana, what film are you going to study? Right? Because you're pretty sure, this quarterback was pretty successful in the old air raid. Surely they're going to incorporate some of that. Well, how much? Well, we don't know. You just make sure that you don't make any comments and give away any sort of anything schematically before that first game and use a coaching change to your advantage. And I think that's what they're going to do. All right, look, more comments from Media Days, which is day 2 today, coming up. We'll come back, hit the phone lines. We'll see who wants to talk on the phone, and we'll hit some more of your text messages and keep it rolling here. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stick around.
Wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is. Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes,
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with
Conversation and tell him what you think right now on the Zone 1059 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right, here we go. Back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau. Staying connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. That's what I have. That's what I have hooked up to my handy dandy iPhone 12 Pro Max. C Spire, #1 network. Speaking of phones, over to the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. On line one, Shane hanging on patiently. Thanks for waiting, Shane. What's up?
Hey, man, how you doing today?
Just right. Thanks for calling.
The tie thing, it's interesting to me. It's my understanding that back in the day of the powdered wig or whatever, they wore ties to keep food and such, wine off their really expensive silk shirts.
Really?
Over time,
so it was like a bib.
More than, huh?
So it was kind of like a bib almost.
Yeah, and if you look at the older type ties, they're not thin like ours. They kind of like a bib. And then I guess over time it morphed into a more of a social clothing thing. And silk ties are so expensive now, but I always thought that was kind of funny.
That is funny.
Because a lot of folks, if you're in the military especially, you'll tuck your tie or flip it over your shoulder or something.
Right. You're trying not to get food on it, but the original purpose was to get food on it, according to what you're saying. Well, and I may be wrong on this too, Shane, but my impression always was that too, a lot of shirts, they would be open. They didn't necessarily have buttons all the way up or a button at the top, right? And so like the bow tie, well, it came from, tying your shirt up around your neck and tying it in a little bow and it holds your shirt up around your neck for something formal if you were wearing a jacket. It had a purpose of holding your shirt up,
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
yeah,
wrong.
but I'm with you. They have no purpose whatsoever now. So.
None. Yeah, none. I mean, it's just interesting to me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, Shane. I mean, it is what it is. Do they look nice? Sure. I mean, that's what we're used to in terms of fashion or whatever. I just look at everybody goes and buys one, and some people paying lots of money for it, throwing on a tie, and you think, do they ever stop to think to themselves, why am I putting this on? What is this for? And there's something to a fault. There's something about me that wants to know the purpose of something if I'm going to be involved in it. If it doesn't have what I feel like is, a decent purpose, I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't be involved in it. That's just me. Joe on the text line, on the Country Pleasing text line, Joe Mailman says, a bear I liked. You got to say any of these state logos look better than a land shark. Joe, what are you saying there? The wording, the phrasing and the wording, Joe, in your text, I can't get what you're trying to get out of me. You said a bear I liked. You got to say any of these state logos look better than a land shark. Question mark. See, I don't understand what you're getting at. Got to rephrase it. Maybe I'm a dummy, Joe, but you got to rephrase it so I know how to answer it. White Denzel reminding us that the state script that they're going to go to on the helmets goes back to baseball. 1959 was the first year that we wore it, according to HailStateUnis.com. All right. Bill in Madison. What's up, Bill? He says ties originated by mercenaries in the Balkans hundreds of years ago as a form of intimidation. What? That can't be true. Did you just type that up just trying to get me to say something dumb on the radio, Bill? Because I think you just accomplished that. Form of intimidation. Who are they intimidating? Guys whose shirts were flying open because they didn't have a button? It's like we're approaching a Monty Python skit plot here. J-Rock texts the show and he says, why do people wear sports jackets in the summertime? Makes no sense to me either. Yeah. Now, here's one thing I would say about that, J-Rock. Sports coat in the summertime. One thing is because if you have on a white shirt and you're sweating, you have sweat through that shirt. And that could also include the underarms. And nobody wants to look at that. And if you have to step in front of somebody, maybe you throw that on for just a few minutes and then take it right back off. We did the family picture at the beach thing last week. Let me tell Beaver this, by the way. Let me tell this to Beaver. Beaver!
Tell it to me.
You ever take part in that, family picture at the beach with the ocean in the background thing that a lot of us do? You ever take part in that?
No, we never made a lot of beach trips.
Not a lot of beach trips? Okay. All right. Well, we did that. And everybody wore white shirts, and so I had like a white dress shirt. But the thing is, I'm the family photographer for stuff like that also. Well, within about 10 minutes, I'd sweat through my white shirt. So like in the family pictures, it's like everybody's looking pretty and their hair's nice, and they get these nice, this white shirt, and then here's this one guy who's obviously sweat right through his shirt. And that was me. But thank goodness for Photoshop for stuff like that. You can fix just about anything in Photoshop. Now, Bill says that he is serious, that ties originated by mercenaries in the Balkans hundreds of years ago as a form of intimidation. Well, see, there's just another example of why it's dumb that we're putting them on in Mississippi in 2023. Can't explain it? Oh, well, this is a formal event. This is a black tie event. No, it ain't. Not for me, it's not. Wrong. Now, I talk a big game until either my lovely wife or my precious daughter tell me, either Matt or Daddy, put on a tie. You're going to have to put. Then I'll do it for them. They're the only ones I'll do it for. Really? Oh, by the way, speaking of my lovely daughter, today is Mary Liddy's 12th birthday. Yep, 12 years old today. And it's just another reason why I have begun in recent years to not attend more and more of these SEC Media Day events, because a lot of times, most years, they are scheduled covering up her birthday. And I made the mistake, the serious mistake, a couple of times, not many, but a couple of times when she was younger, of not actually being there in her presence and with her on her birthday. I showed up a day or two or even 3 later because I was going to that stupid SEC Media Days and calling it work. It ain't work. It's a big media convention where they network and they pal around and eat free food and pretend that it's work. It ain't work. We ain't nailing up shingles. And I should have been with my daughter on all of her birthdays, whether SEC Media Day is going on or not. Those are the facts. And that's the way the facts will continue to play out going forward, if you ask me. All right, so get them in here. Get your texts in. Feel free. You can comment on the live stream. Hey to everybody who's watching. I saw some of the comments pop in. Tad's on Facebook. He said he misses us when we're gone here on the show. Glad you're tuning in. Thanks. Dane commented. He said boycott ties. And when I said, to a fault, I'm like, if it don't have a purpose, should I do this? And he said it's a good fault to have. I guess so. As good as faults can be sometimes. That's one of mine. I got some other ones that aren't as lovely. That's just the truth. But also, let me remind you, the phone line, wide open to you. You can call me on the Divinity Equipment phone line. It is 995-1059, 601 number, 995-1059. Coming up in hour 2, here's what we're going to do. I want to listen to a couple of things that happened at Media Days yesterday. One is, just for fun, we're going to listen to a comment from Jimbo Fisher. Okay?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, that dang old internet, man, you just go on there and point and click, get in there and talk about www.com, and you got then on there, man, you go click. It's real easy.
We're going to listen to Jimbo, a comment from Jimbo. Really about the only interesting thing in terms of, subject matter that I felt like came out of yesterday. I couldn't follow all of it, admittedly. We had a little thing going on, but was Jimbo Fisher talking about hiring Bobby Petrino and who's going to call plays, Petrino or himself. And in one soundbite, Jimbo contradicted himself from start of the comment to the end. He started off by saying, well, I'm not going to get into that. And then he proceeded for the next minute to get into I'm not going to, but then he does. But we're going to hear a comment from him. But also, there were some meaningful comments from Greg Sankey, commissioner of the SEC, in his opening spiel that I thought were pretty telling about all this name, image, and likeness stuff. And you and I have followed it here on the show. Given opinions, those kinds of things. It's not going to change. It's a fact of life, not going away. It's a matter of adjusting to it in a certain way, but also, kind of getting a grasp on it in a certain way. And these were some clues that Greg Sankey dropped. And you have to understand, Greg Sankey is really one of, but really maybe even be the most powerful figure in all of college sports right now. He's the commissioner of the most powerful conference, the most wealthy conference, all that kind of stuff. He wields the biggest stick. Well, when he drops some clues, I think it's worthy of paying attention to. And we're going to come back and take a listen to some of that in hour 2 also. I also have a thought about predictions, and there's a lot of that out there right now, it being SEC Media Days. And somebody asked me today on Twitter for my prediction, and I didn't give them one because I'm not making any. And I'll tell you why in hour 2. That's all coming up. Your texts, all of that. Hour 1 in the books, in the Bureau. The Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. Stick around.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no, what are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, Stone, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl, gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is life. Everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
See, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it. Come and
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the Raisin Bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to you FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big red one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big red one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you, so they're delicious and nutritious.
The whole grain wheat really packs a crunch, but the delicious taste gives it just the right punch.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to...
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right. And they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that. But irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way. Well, it might do some good, said the wife with a sigh. Guess I'll get some All Bran and give it a try. Soon, breakfasts at her house will...
Direct and live at the Zone 105.9 and worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At the Zone 105.9.com.
All right, here we go. Back with you, hour number 2, off and running, rolling along on this, what is it, Tuesday. It's Tuesday, feels like a Monday, but Tuesday. Glad to be back. You know, the first day back after a little break, vacation last week, went down to the coast of Alabama, back in the home state, toes in the sand, all that kind of stuff. Time off, thanks for that, enjoyed it. Glad to be back with you. And kind of ramping it back up and a little bit more travel for me before the month is over. And then we'll really kind of hit it running in August, back to normal and sprint really into the start of the college football season. Where are we? About a month and a half away, something like that. Anywho, glad to be with you here in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Staying connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. All right. You can be a part of the show. Text me, call me. I'll give you those numbers coming up. If you're on the live stream, you can see them there at the bottom of the screen. And feel free to hit us up, either text or call. All that coming up. I did mention, being on the coast last week. A lot of people from the whole southeastern United States kind of go down there to these beaches, Panhandle, Florida, coast of Alabama, some on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We were there in Alabama, and we were at the pool one day last week, and my mother-in-law struck up a conversation with these folks who were there, and, eventually it's like, where are you from? And they said, Missouri. And my mother-in-law is an Ole Miss fan, lives in Vicksburg. She said, oh, Missouri, okay, y'all are in the SEC. And they looked at her and said, what's that? Now, that's a true story. Okay. They said to her, what's that? Now, I think I have to say that in their defense, I think the guy, the husband, did come back later and confirm that he knew what we were talking about. But when we said to her, you're in the SEC, she was like, what is that? See, more ammunition for someone like the homecoming queen whenever she comes back and heals up and comes back on the show. As she makes a case of Missouri should have never been here to begin with in the SEC. Because really and truly, how many people can you interact with in the state of Mississippi or the state of Alabama, even if they're not huge sports fans, who wouldn't know when you said, oh, you're in the SEC? They know. Even the non-sports fans know. Well, apparently not in Missouri. All right, you can be a part of the show. Let me give you the numbers, and then we'll jump into some coverage of SEC Media Days. Got some stuff we're going to do, including a live look-in. I think here in just a minute, if you're listening live here in the middle of the day, in just a minute, you're going to have Hugh Freeze, the head coach at Auburn now, up at the podium. We'll check in on that. You can text the show on the Country Pleasing text line, 885-3776. Another way to remember, it's 885-ESPN. Or you can call me on the Davini phone, 995-1059. That's a 601 number, 995-1059. Here's Hugh Freeze making his first appearance at SEC Media Days as the Auburn head
wisdom
coach.
That I've sought from him through the years, and he's always shot me dead straight and been very truthful with me, which I respect and really, really admire and love. It's exciting to represent Auburn. Our administration, President Roberts and John Cohen, and all of the ADs that work with them have been just incredible, and giving me and our family this opportunity to lead the proud program at Auburn and to restore it to its rightful place in the hierarchy of college football. And we know we've got a tall task ahead, but it's one that we're excited. The alignment that I think I sense from President Roberts to John Cohen down to myself, I think is an all-time high maybe for Auburn. Obviously, I haven't been there, so I don't have a lot to compare it to, but the support I feel and the alignment I feel, particularly with those two guys, is very, very exciting. Obviously, we owe a great debt of gratitude to our fan base. I think we have an incredible fan base that we've sold more season tickets in the history of the program this year. And while that speaks to their expectations and their excitement, hopefully they'll give us a little patience as we continue to rebuild this roster to hopefully close the gap on those guys in this league that are doing it at a high level. So, but we are extremely, extremely excited and proud to have brought three great young men with us today in Luke and Cameron and Elijah.
All right, so there's a little bit of that. That's Hugh Freeze at the podium. He is talking live right now, kind of going through the deal. He's not taking any questions, and we'll hang with it just a second or two. And if he begins to take any questions, we might listen into some of that. If not, if Coach Freeze is going to be one of these that does a really long opening statement, then we'll just bounce off to something else and a few other things. Ed texts the show. Well, let me back up. I missed one here on the Country Pleasing text line. It's from St. Louis Vic. What's up, Vic? He says, Matt, talking about the tie and the white shirt and the sport coat, sweating through it and everything in the summertime. Vic says, that's why some of us big old boys wear under T-shirts year-round to catch the sweat. He said, one texter wrote that intimidation deal. He said, I couldn't help but think about the movie Little Giants. Happy birthday to Mary Liddy. And Vic, thanks so much for the text. Ed texts the show and says, while we're on the subject, Matt, it doesn't make sense that the Chiefs are in the AFC West, but Missouri is in the SEC, right, and in the East. Right, I know. Right? But again, see, it all goes back to a bad decision, Ed, and if you're not careful, I'll look up and it'll be 10 minutes later, rehashing the same old thing. Thank goodness we're about to have a new format of scheduling. They're doing away with divisions, okay, and a new format of scheduling where we rotate more often, play each other more often in the SEC. It's going to be a whole lot more fun for players, fan bases, travel, everything. More interesting matchups more often. You got two new teams coming in. That helps too. But the reason Missouri, when they came in the league, had to be in the Eastern Division, why? We got divisions for the SEC Championship game, the moneymaker. And then when they went to that in 92, what did they do? They said, we may be splitting these divisions, but Alabama has to play Tennessee every year, period. It has to happen. It's third Saturday in October. We can't do away with that. Oh, and Auburn has to play Georgia every year. Oldest rivalry in the South. Got to play it every year, period. And because of those two, Alabama and Auburn, the SEC offices were in Birmingham, by the way. Because of those two, lo and behold, we all had to play permanent rivals and split divisions evenly. And that's why when they came, Missouri had to be in the East. All right, they got questions going on now for Freeze. Let's see what we got.
Hugh, you look at the SEC of the last several years, there's a lot of coaches like yourself that have had two stops, guys like Spurrier and Nick Saban, you could go on and on. When you left Ole Miss, did you have a feeling maybe you could be able to work your way back to to the SEC somewhere? What does it mean to you to have done that? And I think you're the third Arkansas State coach to be at Auburn now. I was wondering what you thought about that.
That's all right, let's go back to did I one day, truthfully, when the ending at Ole Miss occurred, it was hard to truthfully process, would you ever get that opportunity again? So I would have to say at that point, no. I mean, obviously, but as time passes and things tend to settle back in and you work through, I tell people all the time, I think that one of the greatest judges of people, and our players included and the people I come in contact with, are when you experience disappointment, failure, whether it was of your own doing or whether it was circumstances that come into your life, like Luke Deal, who's with us today, he lost his father while being at Auburn. I mean, those are tough circumstances, but how a person responds to those and reacts to those, I think, probably tells you more about them than the successes do. And So,
all right, there you go. So here's a little bit of freeze, and now we're going to move on to some stuff from yesterday from Sankey. That I mentioned this earlier, and I really do think that it is important. It's some clues from the commissioner of the SEC that I feel like are important. Important for us to know that this is how they feel at the decision-making positions when it comes to NIL. That's coming up next. Let me get to these texts, and then we'll hit that from Greg Sankey yesterday. Tiger David texts the show, says, we're coming. Now, okay, it's LSU Tigers, not Auburn Tigers. I'm just making sure, because he spelled it Go Tigers, Geaux, which we know is LSU. He says, we're coming. The preseason hype is fun, but when you finish the goal and holding that gold trophy above your head, that's when it all hits you. Well, Tiger David, I would agree. That's what it's all about. Preseason hype, man. You know, I mean, I'll touch on that at some point here. We are in full preseason hype mode, and the hype machine always gets behind the same logos. It always seems to do that. And there are certain groups of people, and you could call them fan bases, who do a lot better job of buying into and pushing that hype machine down the hill. But none of it matters. It just doesn't matter. The preseason predictions and, you know, media picks, it is a complete and utter, for me, waste of time. Somebody else may enjoy it, gives them something to talk about. It doesn't mean anything. So if you're an LSU fan, or if you're a State fan or an Ole Miss fan, who cares where they put you in the preseason? It does not matter one iota. All that matters is who's standing at the end, right? That's it. More Bully texts the show and says Memphis should be in the SEC over Missouri. I only hit that because I feel like some people laughed at it more, Bully, but you know, I mean, proximity wise, yeah. I don't know about, you know, anything else. They certainly don't give you a TV market or anything else for that matter. Ed texted the show and he said, and Missouri is farther east than Texas. And there's some truth in that for sure. All right. So what about NIL? I'm going to break it up into 4 parts. And this is what Greg Sankey said yesterday that stood out to me. We're going to take it part by part. If you're listening on the radio, you're going to hear the audio from Sankey at the podium. If you're watching on the live stream, you will see the video clips that we're talking about. First up, part 1 of Greg Sankey's comments yesterday as he got into the NIL subject, where things stand and what's got to happen, and the way he sees it from his chair, which is at really the king of the hill. He's on top of this whole, college football world. Here's Greg Sankey.
It's been 2 years since the first state laws brought to us the active concept of student athletes receiving economic benefit from their use of their name, image, and likeness. And I'm going to be clear as I can. Our activities in Congress, our discussions with states, and even discussions of conference policies are not about taking away this new name, image, and likeness opportunities. In many ways, it's been a net positive for young people. But we all know there are stories. Some stories told and others not told, of promises made but not fulfilled, of inducements offered but not provided, of empty commitments, of NIL agreements that created more questions than provided answers, and other behaviors in this space that rightly cause concern. And the reality is our student athletes deserve something better than a patchwork of state laws that support their name, image, and likeness activity, if support is the right word. Our student athletes deserve something better than a race to the bottom at the state legislature level, as the efforts are made to create what are perceived as a competitive edge through state laws that are not overseen. Future student athletes, those who right now might be 15 or 16 or 17 years old, they deserve something better than to need to sort through a fully unregulated marketplace, being approached by individuals who present themselves as something that they may not be, where anyone can purchase card stock and run it through a printer and call themselves an agent on a business card, and then engage in making offers to young people that are neither transparent, that do not include protections that many of us would expect to be normal. Protections that many of us would expect to be normal.
Okay, so there you hear some of the comments from Greg Sankey to just get started. And there's a lot in that one soundbite, but if you go back to the beginning, one thing that jumped out at me, and I heard him today reiterating this was something, it jumped out to me because it is coming from Greg Sankey. He said that there are all kinds of stories out there behind the curtain in college sports and college football and basketball about, promises that were made by some school in NIL money as an inducement to recruit you away, get you in the portal. The player does it and goes there, and then they don't pay. They don't pay up. Inducements, NIL just uses a straight inducement to get even high school players to transfer and different things. And what he said was they need more of those people who are going through that to tell that story. Like today, I heard him say he wanted those high school coaches and these college coaches. Get out here in the media and tell the whole thing. Tell on people. And that is telling to me when a guy like Sankey says, basically from an oversight level, there's nothing we can do about it. You just got to make it public, and hopefully the embarrassment of all that has its effect. Well, to me, that's pretty telling. He also talked about street agents that are pretending to be agents and all that kind of stuff and fooling kids. All right, here you go. Here's more yesterday from Greg Sankey about the NIL situation. Listen closely to this.
To our knowledge, no state has taken action to enforce its own state laws around name, image, and likeness activity. At the same time, we've seen in a number of states laws enacted that bar associations, the NCAA, or conferences, including the Southeastern Conference, from enforcing what, at our level, at the conference level, are still to be adopted, if ever, NIL policies. In other words, the states haven't been active in enforcing laws, and now states are preventing the NCAA or conferences from adopting and enforcing reasonable name, image, and likeness standards. If states will not enforce the laws, and states are going to prohibit the NCAA or conferences from enforcing these reasonable policies, congressional action is then the only way to provide a national uniform standard for name, image, and likeness activity, and to draw the lines around the boundaries that do not become simply pay for play.
That is a huge statement, and it made the rounds yesterday. It didn't surprise anyone, but again, no, he's not Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, but he's Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, basically the most powerful guy in college sports. He even said, some people think I'm the one that's got to fix all this. And he's saying, given what's going on legally in all these different states, from a legislative standpoint, the only thing that will provide some sort of overall structure where everybody plays by the same rule in every school is if Congress does it at a national level. That's it. There's your hope. It must be done on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., or it ain't getting done. That's huge. And to him, he says they don't have any states who are actually enforcing their own NIL laws that they've passed in their state legislatures, while at the same time passing laws, and they're going to enforce this, that says you cannot come in here and monitor NIL in our state. It is straight up. Listen, when you can't enforce, you don't have rules, period. You don't have them. When you don't have rules, you don't have a league. It's a war free for all. It's war without the killing. That's what it is. What wins most wars? A war chest. There's your reality. And he's basically stating that. There's more from Sankey. Here we go.
Now, these realities I've described are in contrast to what we hear from our student athlete leaders who gathered with us in late June. Our student athletes continue to ask for uniformity in name, image, and likeness policies across the country. Our student athletes want to know their competitors on the opposite line of scrimmage are subject and governed by the same rules and policies by which they are governed. Uniformity will ensure a high school student and his or her family do not have to investigate potentially dozens of different state laws or university policies to figure out how they can be active in this name, image, and likeness world. Student athletes ask for our help in guiding them through these challenges. We are used to providing support, and they want protections for themselves and their teammates, and they want opportunities for their international teammates that are consistent across the country under this name, image, and likeness heading. And they want the same for their competitors.
I don't know what all that means other than, I'm hearing somebody telling me that you want protections for high school athletes and their families. And I'm sure there's some cases where, they need some protections. Okay. But protection from what? And how many recruits and their families are simply telling coaches, what do I get? What's the financial package to come play for you? Yet we're sitting here calling it NIL and calling it marketing opportunities. And on the recruiting trail, what's the conversation? Hey, coach, how much money to come to your school and play? At some point, we got to call it what it is and deal with it as such. And until you do, you're not going to have any answers. But if you got Sankey telling me that it's got to come from Congress, the end. Forget it. Just, it's Major League Baseball. You got the Yankees and you got the Tampa Bay Rays. Sometimes you build a roster and sometimes you buy one. Just let it play out. Markets of all different sizes. That's what we have. Looks like that's what we're going to have. Y'all stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal, the taste bran, the cereal that's All-Bran. A breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transgram fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra.
59.com.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio, Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance. So you got Petrino at Texas A&M. He's going to be coaching their offense. I mentioned earlier we were going to hear a soundbite from Jimbo Fisher yesterday about all that. And Will commented on YouTube. He said, is that the play calling question that they asked Jimbo? You know, I don't think it's the exact one that got the response that sort of made the rounds yesterday on social media, Will. But it was a similar question in a different room, and he answered it kind of the same way. And so I'll give that to you now and let you hear that. This is yesterday, Jimbo being asked about, and you may even hear the question. I think you will. You'll hear the question here. Being asked about Petrino being on staff and who's going to do what. Is he calling plays? Is Petrino calling plays? All that. Here it is.
Entering this first season, where do the responsibilities lie between you and Bobby as far as between play calling, just running the offense?
Well, I'm not going to get into all the dynamics in which we have, but Bobby takes it. He runs those rooms and does those rooms. We're all in there, but I'm in offensive rooms. I'm in defensive rooms all the time as a head coach. You have to be because you get what's going on. But great respect. Like I say, Bobby's one of the best play callers, one of the best offensive minds in college football, has for a long time, and quarterback guys. So he and I have a great respect, great work ethic, and it's been wonderful so far. And then I'm not going to get into from a schematic standpoint of what's going on or that part of it, but this went very well, and we're very blessed to have him.
Okay, so you got it. That's what it was. Very blessed to have him. The one yesterday that made the rounds was Jimbo kind of saying, what a wonderful person Bobby Petrino is. Maybe he is now. Maybe he is. I don't know. Maybe he is. Hey, here's a question for you, and you may want to weigh in. And by the way, I am coming over to the text line. Res Dog and Jason coming to y'all's text in just a minute. You can text me on the Country Pleasing text line. It's 885-3776. That's Country Pleasing Sausage. I'm on some jalapeno and cheddar. I just thought it out. I'm beginning that tonight or tomorrow. 885-3776. Or you can remember it this way, 885-ESPN is another way to remember the number to the text line. So coming to those in just a sec, get those in there. Comments here on the live stream. Will said on YouTube, has famous internet commenter and apparent Aggie insider Sliced Bread told us who's going to call plays for A&M? Who is Sliced Bread? Forrest commented, he said, I love listening to these commercials while I'm at work. Takes me back to a simpler time. He's watching on YouTube, by the way. He says, thanks, Matt. Enjoying the show from hot Texas today. Real feel 116 at the moment. Hashtag send help. This is Elizabeth. 116 is the feels like temperature in Texas. Man. And did y'all see, I did see this last week while I was on vacation, something come across on Twitter where in Mississippi, the High School Activities Association said that any outdoor activity, football, cheerleading, band, whatever, has to stop and cease on a day when the heat index reaches 105 or more. They got to stop. And I thought, well, there's going to be a lot of days where it may get up there. But Elizabeth says it's 116 right now out there. We were talking about NIL. Will commented and said the number one rule when dealing with money, always get it in writing. And Roshana on Facebook says, hey, Matt, get well, homecoming queen. Thanks so much, Roshana. I'll pass it along. Appreciate the well wishes there for sure. Res Dog on the country pleasing text line says, looking forward to MSU beating LSU and Bama at home on our way to winning 10 games. That's from Res Dog. Well, if that happens, then you're talking about an all-time historic type of season for sure. Jason in Flagstaff said that More Bully was onto something. Said if you slap a SEC logo in Hattiesburg a decade ago, what kind of absolute monster is Southern Miss right now? Memphis, UAB, etc. He said Missouri seems to have mostly squandered their momentum. Yeah. I squandered it. They did have momentum, didn't they? Right out of the chutes, back-to-back SEC title games. Didn't win one of them, but got to two of them. I know they played Auburn one year. I can't remember who they played the other year. And another thought I had as I was looking here at what's going on at Media Days right now, this is Hugh Freeze. This is his first year at Auburn, and he's taking his turn at the podium. But I was trying to figure out who are the most successful retread coaches in the SEC. And you might even, it's obviously Nick Saban and then Bear Bryant, right? Because Bear Bryant was at Kentucky at one time when they were in the SEC and then winds up at Alabama and sort of dominates the whole college football thing. And obviously Nick Saban, championship at LSU, goes to the NFL for a short stint back and starts dominating in Alabama. So those are your two most successful all-time retread coaches, and they both involve coaching at a school in the SEC, later coming back and coaching Alabama. But other than that, who else is on the list? Okay, because here's a name you probably wouldn't think of right off, but another one of the more successful retreads was Houston Nutt at Arkansas. We forget he took Arkansas to 2 SEC title games while at Arkansas. Didn't win one, but he went to 2 of them. And then eventually, went to Ole Miss, and he did have, 2 winning seasons where he played in the Cotton Bowl? So, until it kind of really bottomed out on him, but he did have some initial success at another school after the first time. But who else? I'm trying to think. Retread coaches. It's pretty rare. It really is pretty rare. You got, because that's what Freeze is trying to do. He had some success at Ole Miss, didn't reach the title game, anything like that, but had good teams. Played in 1 Sugar Bowl, I guess, and now has bounced around and come back to Auburn and is trying to have more success there than he had before. So, but who else? Who am I missing? Yeah, Will commented on YouTube, and first he said, does Jackie Sherrill count? And see, A&M wasn't in the SEC at the time. But then he says Will Muschamp might be the least successful. That's the thing, man. You talk about a guy who has gotten big-time jobs and has been paid more than anybody else to not coach at places. He just keeps on. He must give phenomenal interviews. I guess. He probably would be the least successful retread. Mullen, I was surprised at the lack of success at Florida, but he did in the COVID year get him to an SEC title game, right? Had 1 or 2 first-round picks. I know he had 1. That was a top 10 in the tight end out there. Yeah, okay, Spurrier was a retread, but not from another SEC school, right? Oh, I see what you mean. South Carolina, right. Because you'd have, okay, so Spurrier would have been Florida first, then at South Carolina. And they had a couple blips at South Carolina. You know, pretty good teams, right? Not major teams. Somebody Twilight Care commented on YouTube, says Coach O at Ole Miss and LSU. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Orgeron's a great example, right? Where he didn't do much at all. He was a head coach, but he didn't do much at all at Ole Miss, and then at LSU turns the interim into the full time and wins the whole thing with one of the best teams we've ever seen in the SEC. So that's a retread that has some success. Okay, so what are we up to? As far as head coaches, what are we up to? Probably 5 guys in the history. And there haven't been just a ton of retreads, overall. It's not like you got 5 out of 40. There hadn't been a ton of guys that they're at one school and then get another shot at another school. There just haven't been many of them over the long haul. Over the last 50, 60 years, it's just you can count them on one hand, the number of guys who they were at one SEC school, eventually came back to another and had a lot of success. And it hasn't really happened a ton of times. So thanks for that. And Ed also commented on the text line and said the same thing. He said, Coach O is interesting. Ed on the text line says, Coach O, is he texting the show? Oh, and there's another one. That's right. Forgot about Tuberville. Will said Senator Tommy Tuberville. That's right. Because, he was there at a time where he was fortunate to be at Auburn at a time leading up to just before Saban got there. Right. And so he had a run in the early 2000s of Auburn beat Alabama 6 straight years. And they had the whole thing about 1 for the thumb, or was it 5 straight years, or trying to get 6, whatever it was. So they had a run of success kind of dominating that thing. And he was at Ole Miss before. Didn't have a ton of success at Ole Miss. But I will say, people forget that when Tuberville got that Ole Miss job in the mid-'90s, he went there, I guess, in 95. He was taking over an Ole Miss team that was on major probation for recruiting stuff and cheating and stuff, and got popped by the NCAA. And I think Tuberville's first 2 years as the head coach, they supposedly could only sign like 15 players in each class. They had small signing classes. So considering that, he did a pretty doggone good job, I would say. I would say that he did. All right, a little bit of time left with you here on this Tuesday show in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. I'm Matt. We'll come back, hit it. Another thought from Media Days. A thought on predictions that are flying around like crazy, that you got to be careful with that stuff. And more with you. Staying connected because of C-Spire. Stick around.
Wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. Exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's Elation, the exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yes, Stone, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger Helper.
At The Zone 105.9 and coming to you worldwide at TheZone1059.com.
All right, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. All right, staying connected to you because of C-Spire. Several things to get into here with a little bit of time left before we wrap it up here on this Tuesday. Jason in Flagstaff says, haha, I remember, quote, heat category 5 days in the Army. Heat indexes from 90 to the surface of the sun in the swamp. He said, all we did was untuck our pants from our boots, and they forced us to drink 1 quart canteen of water every 30 minutes. Nothing else changed. You do all the same stuff, just stay more hydrated and fight on through it, right? Like it just kind of sounds like 2-a-days almost. Or back in the day when you could have 2-a-days. They're outlawed now. 2-a-day practices in football. We used to have 3-a-days at one period of time in high school. We sure did. What about predictions? How do you feel about preseason predictions? I perused some stuff on the SEC Media Days hashtag earlier this morning on Twitter. And this is one thing I can tell you that you can either, if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, you can tweet it. You can say it to your friends or whatever. And in a few months, you're going to look really smart. You ready? Here it is. It's a virtual guarantee. This Mississippi State team is not going to finish last in the West. And you can tweet it, you can say it, and you're going to look smart. Just telling you. Every time they pick them last, they don't finish last. It's a tradition. Somebody out there on one of the hashtags had state, a super veteran state team, finishing 12th out of 14 teams. It is a guarantee they will finish higher than 12th out of 14 teams. When you see that stuff, okay, put yourself on the record. You're going to look smart when it's all over with, said and done. Give you a reason why coming up in just a minute. First, though, over here on the phone line, Davini Equipment phone. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer, the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact, means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Davini. Brad hanging on the Davini phone on line 1. What's up, Brad? Thanks for calling.
Matt, how are you?
Just right.
Question. Well, first I want to say I want to look smart later in the year because I'm going to say State's not going to finish last. No way.
No. Right. They won't. They won't. They won't finish 7th in the West.
No, there's no way. I mean, it's a good veteran team, leadership. they're going to have a good year.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
the other thing.
Okay.
So you was talking about NIL earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Just like with Tennessee and their, scholarship reductions from, this past penalty they got laid down on them. I mean, in the NIL days, all you got to do now is just write a check to these kids and they're going to pay for college anyway. So,
that's it. That's right. Yes.
How's the scholarship reduction even going to affect these schools anymore?
Yeah, what I would say, Brad, is you're right. That is a fairly easy workaround now as compared to what it used to be. A fairly easy workaround. It's just it does require some steps. It requires a little work. They can't go about the normal business of loading those scholarships up, the normal paperwork through the normal office, which they've got a system every college does where it's easy. Now it just requires a little more work through their collective. You see what I'm saying? And
right.
And the other thing is there's this idea of you are on probation, which means any school that's ever been on quote unquote NCAA probation meant that was a period of time where they better be squeaky clean, or else if you mess up while on probation, they're going to pop you. Okay, well, the thing is, we even saw in this case, Brad, the Attorney General in the state of Tennessee threatened to sue the NCAA if they gave them a bowl ban. Well, if you're on probation and you go loading up your roster and you just pay them through the collective and they're basically like expensive walk-ons instead of scholarships, and that's your workaround. Well, if they try to punish you on that, what do you think the Attorney General is going to do this time? Right? So you're right. Right. We are living through watching a complete upheaval, taking the bucket and dumping it out on the ground, and it's a free for all. It is a like I said earlier, it's kind of like it's almost too strong of an analogy, but it's almost like war without the killing, because in war, there are no rules. The only rules are the ones that somebody in the war decides they're going to obey themselves personally. But there's nobody to enforce a rule because it's wide open. You can do whatever you want. And usually, whoever's got the biggest war chest has a great advantage in war. That's kind of what you have. That's kind of the situation you have.
In wars, most of the time you have battle lines. You know where the fronts are. NIL, you have no idea where the fronts are because everything changes daily on the.
That's it.
It's a crazy time.
It really is. It really is. And it's kind of like for a player, whether it's a high school recruit or a guy in a portal, the old analogy of you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you, out here in the working world, same thing there. What is that? Right. What is a 4-star corner worth? Well, he's worth whatever some school that wants him is willing to pay him. That's what he's worth. And nobody really knows what that is. Now, I will say, Brad, that I kind of am of the believer that, free markets, eventually they just kind of balance themselves out, right? And they have, but it's going to take several years for this to start to balance out a little bit. And I feel like, Brad, once it does balance out, things are going to look a lot different than they look right now.
I agree. It can't continue in this trend, but it's just going to be a few years.
Yeah, I agree.
But, man, I enjoyed talking to you. And
you too, Brad.
How many days to kick off? 48?
Let's
49?
see how many. That's something that I should know off the top of my head, but I don't. And it's with the reason I made a countdown clock on my computer. So it is 45 days from today to Saturday, September the 2nd.
45 days.
Yep.
Be here before we know it.
It sure will. No question. Appreciate it, Brad. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Have a great one. So, State, it's a guarantee. They're not going to finish last in the West. They're not going to be 12th out of 14. They'll be better in both of those. How much, I don't know. We'll see. I did see this. Okay, they put up a graphic a little bit ago at SEC Media Days, and it said that State has 8 returning starters on offense and only 4 on defense. That's what it said. Starters. And I was wondering kind of what we're looking at there. All right. If you look at positionally, you lose a first-round cornerback in Emmanuel Forbes. Well, who else do you have at corner? Marcus Banks, Bama transfer, had the big play in a bowl game. He'll come back. He'll play, may start. Furge, who's been there forever. He's super-duper senior. He may start opposite of DeCamerion Richardson, who's your other starter at corner. You got Nicholson, who's kind of corner safety, big, long corner, but he'll compete. You got Radar Jones, who transferred back in there from LSU. He was originally from Horn Lake. Kamari Rogers from Miami, who looked to me really good in the spring. He's there competing at corner also. Few others. Okay. The linebacker room on defense, again, they said 4 starters. So DeCamerion Richardson would definitely be a starter at one of the corner positions. The linebacker room is loaded. Bookie Watson, Jet Johnson. Okay. There's 2 more starters right there, but you look at who's in that room. Khalid Moore, you got John Lewis, who's going to be a heck of a player if he stays healthy. Gilmore, who I thought, look good. Purvis, who started some for you, so you could list him as a starter because he did start some for you. And Deshaun Page, who's played a ton of football for you. And that's just your linebacker. The linebacker group is one of the best linebacker groups in the league, whether anybody realizes that or not, at State. It just is. There's some NFL guys in that group. Defensive front guys. Okay, edge player Jordan Davis, who's like super senior. He's a starter. So, again, they're listing 4 starters. But he's been a starter for you at times. DeMonte Russell has started games for you. There's a 5th guy who's a super, senior guy, redshirt senior guy. And a young sophomore in Deontay Anderson, who's going to be a really good player, just hadn't started for you yet, but he's been a part of your depth. Others on the front that are coming back for you. Pickering, starter. Okay, now I'm up to 6 guys who've started. Crumity, starter. Now I'm up to 7 guys who've started for you. Okay, in the middle on the defensive front. And maybe your best players on the front are some of these young guys. Like Davis, who's the freshman, is going to be a heck of a player. Dinkins, going to be a heck of a player. Trevion Williams, going to be a heck of a player. Those are all depth guys. I mean, I'm up to 7 guys who've started a bunch of games for you. That's not even including Dinkins and Williams, who've played a bunch and will play a bunch for you on your front. I think when people say State's got 4 starters returning on defense, I think that's very misleading. And to say that they've got 8 starters on offense is not misleading, and the entire offensive line is seniors. They stay healthy, they're going to surprise some people. I'm just telling you. All right, it's in the books. This Tuesday show in the Bureau. We'll do it again tomorrow. For Beaver, I'm Matt, all of us here on the show in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. See y'all tomorrow. See you then. See you.